Seeing Hikawa collecting papers off the ground, Tanaka decided to help, only to receive a glare along with cold words telling him that she doesn't need his help. Tanaka brushed it off, saying that he'll help anyway since class is starting soon. Once he got to class, a fellow student commented on Hikawa's attitude towards Tanaka. The classmate said that Hikawa was a transfer student to their school and had such an intense personality that it was scary. Acting all uppity, the student tried insulting her to impress Tanaka, saying that Hikawa probably doesn't even have friends. Slumping over his desk, Tanaka said that he didn't care, but he thought that that's only half true. The fact that Hikawa had no friends did make him sympathize with her, but nothing more. As he thought this though, Hikawa appeared as if summoned. As Tanaka noticed her arriving at the class and hanging around near him, something caught his attention. He had noticed that Hikawa always tries to get close to him, no matter the activity or what he tries to do. She's somewhere nearby and trying to be involved in some way. He thought that she must be doing this since she has no friends and he's one of the only people that can shrug off her icy attitude. He believed that this was becoming an issue, especially if she keeps it up at this rate. The issue is that, before he knew it, he had been falling head over heels for her, and she doesn't seem interested in him in that kind of way. As he lay on his desk, cursing himself, Hikawa called his name. With his head still on his desk, Tanaka asked why Hikawa always hangs out with him. If she acted nicer, she could easily make a lot of friends. Hikawa stated the issue bluntly. She has tried, but cannot change her icy personality, no matter how much effort and time she dedicates to it. But despite the nasty personality she bears, Tanaka was the only one who's been kind to her, treated her like a normal person. She admitted that she's still an awful person, but she had thought that since Tanaka was so kind, things were different. Hikawa thought that Tanaka's kindness was because he understood her feelings and felt the same way as her. She thought that he knew that she liked him, but she believes now that she was mistaken. Blushing, Hikawa apologized while Tanaka sat there, gears slowly turning in his head. After realizing what she meant, Hikawa apologized a lot for misunderstanding Tanaka, so he decided to correct the mistake by confessing to her. On a different day while heading to school, Tanaka thought about how it's nice to be dating Hikawa, but he doesn't know how to date properly. Tanaka recalled how they've been going to school daily, but there are some issues that make him uncomfortable. He had no clue what to talk about with Hikawa, and felt uncomfortable and as awkward as can be. He had hoped that she would catch on, but she seemed not to, as Tanaka tried to talk to her about the cold weather. Hikawa casually drops that her natural temperature is 1 degree Celsius lower than the average person, so she feels really cold. Tanaka, hearing this, was surprised. But he realized that he could use this to his advantage, and decided to ask Hikawa something. Turning to face her, he asked if her hands were cold. Hikawa, staring blankly back at Tanaka, asked if he wanted to hold them. Thawing slightly, Hikawa hesitates while showing some emotion, but gives in eventually. Tanaka, now holding Hikawa's hand, confirmed what she said. She's cold. Stating the obvious, he mentions that she really is cold, but his natural temperature is 37, so he must feel hot. As he held her hand, Tanaka thought that feeling Hikawa's cold hands in his actually warms his heart. Tanaka realized he was kinda thinking embarrassing thoughts, so began to say that it's not good that Hikawa's hands are so cold. He admitted that he thought that she was exaggerating, but she was telling the complete truth. Looking up from her hands, Tanaka was face to face with Hikawa and noticed that she was blushing like crazy, reaching all the way to her fingertips. Tanaka was slow to notice as usual, but realized the situation and turned bright red himself. Hikawa, showing her sweet side, comforted him by saying that his hands were really warm in a sweet and caring way. Walking to school in the early summer, Tanaka complained about how hot it was. However, Hikawa asked to hold hands again since her hands were still cold, but Tanaka couldn't understand how that could be possible. Dripping with sweat, Tanaka mentioned to Hikawa that today is hot, right? Hikawa, unfazed with her icy expression, casually said that she didn't notice it since she was still cold. Tanaka, still surprised by how cold Hikawa can be, questioned her on it. Hikawa, expecting the question, said that she's commonly so cold that she has to wear 5-toed socks in bed to stay warm. Tanaka, upon hearing the mention of 5-toed socks, began to imagine it. Overwhelmed by the image, Tanaka bent over and laughed her as in his opinion, That was one of the cutest things ever. Hikawa, however, was not impressed. She asked why he was laughing, causing Tanaka to apologize and try to explain why, but Hikawa turned her face away from him, saying that it's always too cold for her as she blushed with embarrassment. Tanaka, noticing all this, realized that she might be mad with him. He began to panic as he realized that he might have messed up. Trying to make it up to her, he realized that he can interlock his fingers with hers, mimicking the comfort and warmth of the toe socks. After doing so, he also realized that he might have made another mistake. He looked down at Hikawa and saw her flushed red and her eyes shut tight. Tanaka apologized as he said that this type of hand-holding generates too much warmth, right? In a weak voice, Hikawa said that she's fine. Tanaka was worried, but Hikawa yelled that she's fine. Tanaka, however, believed the opposite as Hikawa was the reddest she'd ever been. What he didn't notice was the joy shining in Hikawa's eyes as she loved every moment of this. That night while sitting in bed, Hikawa looked down at her 5-toed socks and recalled the walk with Tanaka and how their hands were intertwined and warm like her socks. Blushing happily at the memory, Hikawa decided to text Tanaka. Tanaka was freaking out at home, worried about how he should apologize to Hikawa, but stopped in his tracks as a message came in from her. Cryptically, Hikawa said that 5-toed socks are really warm, you know? Not understanding the reference to the morning's events, Tanaka continued to be confused. However, despite all the bumps, it seemed like the both would continue to have a loving relationship in the long run.